This presentation is about diabetes in Indigenous Australians with a focus in remote areas. For different medical conditions, health outcomes are dissimilar between Indigenous and non-Indigenous populations, where diabetes produces the greatest gap. The factors that create this inequity are socially produced, systematic in their distribution, which are avoidable, unfair, and unjust. It is not an equality issue because equality focuses on the same level of healthcare distribution rather than achieving comparable health outcomes among different populations. The issue deserves attention from medical practitioners because high blood sugar level were reported to be 1 in 20 in metropolitan areas, which go down to 1 in 16 in Indigenous population and further exacerbated in remote areas with 1 in 11. Researchers show Indigenous people are getting diabetes at a younger age. There is also significant statistics regarding diabetic complications, where gestational diabetes is 1.5 times more common in Indigenous population. Hospital admission rate is up to 10 times higher compared to their non-Indigenous counterpart. Those affected the most are Indigenous Australians that reside in remote areas. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Performance Framework 2014 report showed the majority that reside in remote areas don't speak English, have lower percentage of higher education, higher percentage of no qualification and unemployment rates. They remain in the lowest and second lowest household income quantiles, which leads to 6 times more likely to report food insecurity. They are also more likely to be physically inactive, obese and a smoker, and less likely to meet their fruit and vegetable daily intake. These are the risk factors for diabetes. Thus, linking them together, we have a causal pathway from upstream determinants, especially the environmental factors of being remote, to intermediate determinants like lower education and employment rates that leads to lower level of health literacy and incomes, which create food insecurities, poor housing conditions, and difficulty accessing services. To downstream determinants, including lifestyle factors like poor health behaviors mentioned above, psychological factors including residual stress from the effect of stolen generation, and safety factors. These different levels of health determinants eventually leads to the inequity in Indigenous diabetes health outcomes, including increasing prevalence for diabetes and hospitalization rates for renal complications. Diabetes is the second leading underlying cause of death among Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, with a death rate that is 6 times higher than their non-Indigenous counterpart. Therefore, to reach the remote Indigenous population, a preferred preventive community strategy to respond to this health inequity is using telehealth, which involves diabetic educators providing information about diabetes, encouraging and promoting lifestyle changes, as well as diabetes management in Indigenous population through telephone. Another new feature to this proposed strategy is a voice automated application that can translate diabetic information into different Aboriginal languages, which will assist diabetic educators to communicate with those that don't speak English in remote areas. This strategy aligns with the proportionate universalism approach because while the universal aspect of this approach improves the health literacy of the pre-diabetic Indigenous population and foster healthy lifestyle changes like increasing physical activities and healthy food intake, the targeted aspect of this approach will provide diabetic Indigenous with a better understanding about diabetes and provide them with individual plan that tailor to their blood sugar level for better management and better diabetic health outcomes. Telehealth has the potential to become a national program as it can connect practitioners, specialists and other allied health workers in managing medical conditions, while the patient can still sit back at home and enjoy holistic care. The strategy will be nourished with the complete installation of the national broadband network. Although it's costly when first implemented, it is sustainable and innovative for Australia public health due to its wide coverage and information sharing nature. Backward study shows telehealth improved health literacy in remote population as participants recognize the importance of being active and compliant to medication. The result was clinically significant in reduction of HbA1c and body weight, with patient and provider report great satisfaction with the intervention. However, there are potential barriers and consequences due to various factors coming from major stakeholders, including government, telehealth developers and providers, health professionals and patients. For instance, IT training will be required for most stakeholders. New policy need to be made regarding communicating confidential information. The developers and provider will need to develop specific software to match special needs. For example, an application that can translate health information into different Aboriginal languages. And for the patients, changing from traditional care to technological care can be a challenge, especially those that have never been exposed to these. This might lead to resistance in using the service. In sum, one good way to tighten the diabetics gap between rural Indigenous population and the general population is using telehealth, as telehealth provides individual support at patients' own home in their own word.
created using Powtoon.